Yeah. All right. Here we go. So, coming to you from the truck. Woo! Mobile command center. That's how it's going to be. All right. Anyway, today is still, I don't know, Tuesday, maybe? Tuesday, November 26th, 2019. There we go. I actually took the time to write notes and then, like, yeah, whatever. We'll see how this goes. So, about quarter after 8 in the morning. This is the end of my current week. I'm going to have 3 days off. As is typical, I always feel like when I have a big chunk of time off, I'm not well prepared going into the time off because I could have been, I don't know, buying supplies or something. Yeah. Anyway. So we'll just figure out something, I guess. I got some ideas we're going to do this week, or my weekend, my middle of the week weekend, my days off. That one. Yeah, days off. Let's go with that. Anyway, so I will not be online for Thanksgiving. I will not be in town for Thanksgiving. I will be home. Also, the way it works out, I am not working on Black Friday. For that, I am very thankful. I don't know how that happened out, but it's like, all right, good. Not working that day. If you've ever worked retail, you know what I mean. Madness, certain madness. Anyway, so um, as far as the camper shell rig for now, I'm going to say it's basically done. I'm not going to make any major improvements. I am going to do something with the roof. I mean, it's currently OSB loosely jointed together. Nothing ever got glued. There's gaps in the seal. It's not pretty, but it does give me shelter from the wind. That was the major part. It actually apparently was windy last night. I didn't even notice. So huge improvement compared to when I had things like tarps hanging up. So it's pretty solid. So that's actually working out really well. As far as the cold, I haven't noticed it. It's been very warm for me. I've got my Alaska sleeping bag that I made. It's been tested to well below freezing. So it doesn't get that cold here. So I'm very comfortable. So later edition, I don't remember if I got this on a video or not. I've taken it down now, but you can see the white here. That's foil over bubble wrap. I bought stuff that had one white face. You've seen that in all my other videos. So that is on both ends, which were open before. And then I took a Harbor Freight moving blanket. You can see right there, there's a white PVC pipe. So I mounted the PVC pipe kind of like a shower curtain. And then I take the moving blanket, which, if you haven't noticed these, you go down to Harbor Freight. They're about $5 or $6, I think. It's about a little more than 6 feet long. It's not quite square, but it's squarish, right? The one I have is blue. It's kind of heavy. It's for padding things when you're moving, right? They're essentially considered disposable. They're, big label on it. Do not wash, do not dry, that kind of thing, because it'll just fall apart. They are incredibly warm. Who knew? A friend of mine turned me on to that couple last year, a year before already. Yeah, they're very cheap and very warm. I very I very likely may cover some parts of my walls in the house with these things because they are just awesome, right? Anyway, so I would just drape the moving blanket completely over the that white pipe, PVC pipe. So I got double layers of that, which I don't need. It's just, what else are you going to do with this? I draped it all the way over, and then it goes from head to foot, completely blocks off the breeze. Also, of note here, I have had a real problem with the street lights in the Walmart parking lot. They're incredibly bright LEDs, and even with your eyes closed, it feels like the sun is shining on you. So that moving blanket completely blocks the light. It works out really well. So I have been really comfortable. So anybody that's worried, not. I'm warmer in here than I am at home right now. Yeah. So working on that also. I don't remember if it was on the last video from home or not, but I did make another tent over my bed at home. And that I used a moving blanket all the way over. And I made cardboard ends just because I had a big piece of cardboard. And again, that's incredibly comfortable in there. So I'm good for well below freezing on both places. So we're fine. Anyway, in case you missed it, thank you. We are above 1,000 subscribers, and so I am now part of the YouTube Partner Program. Yeah, YouTube Partner Program, YPP, which means I'm now eligible to start making income. And that is basically the way that works. I will try not to go on and on about this, but I was talking about transparency and so on. Once, basically, to become part of the program, a YouTuber has to have 1,000 subscribers. After you hit 1,000, yes, the subscribers are important, but they don't really count subscribers for anything. What they're counting is views and viewable playback and viewed minutes and total views or something like that. This is not going to be a tutorial on how that works because I honestly don't remember. But your views, very much important. Okay. So we are at the moment at 1,031 subscribers. So we're way up. That's great. And it's got I've got a dashboard on the YouTube Studio. Yeah. YouTubers, you have this other app that you can load. It shows you all your stats and everything like that. So it says my estimated revenue at this moment is $32.18 for the month. Okay. The month isn't over yet. I think I'm not sure if my payout is going to be 1 month after I was into the program, or if they pay out at the end of the calendar month, or they stop it at that month and then they go from there. I'm not sure. I'll post back on that a little more. But the other part is you have to have $100 total income and then they'll pay it out. So if you don't hit $100 that month, they just keep carrying it over. Well, 2 years ago when they made the change, I was already up to $46 in my account, and it's just sat there at 46 for 2 years, So now that estimated $32 is going to get added to the 46. So we probably won't get a payout this month, but if I get about $30 next month, by the end of the year, I'll have my first actual payout. So, yay, that's pretty cool. Yeah, overnight sensation. It's only taken me 12 years to make my first dollar. Yay, But the way I'm looking at it is if I can make about $40 a month on YouTube, and because my numbers are incrementally coming up, I'll probably make at least that much every month. Okay. Last month, I think it was, I saw about $40 from Amazon, which was pretty cool. But that would have been books, and I've got some videos on Amazon, DVDs that you can buy. And I was like, okay, so, $30 here, $40 there, that starts to add up, right? I mean, we're not quite there yet, but, if you figure 30 and 40 is 70, that's 10% of my budget. Yeah. So we're not out of the woods yet, but it's kind of cool when you see that starting to happen, because I heard somebody say this one time, and I really liked what they meant was, once you've made your first dollar, you've proved the system works, and then it's just a matter of fine-tuning it. And going from $0 to $1 seems to take forever, but going from $1 to $10 can be pretty quick because everything starts to click. So like I said, we're not there yet, but I'm reasonably optimistic that it would be. I mean, that's the dream. If I can start making $1,000 a month outside of work. If you look at my lifestyle because of work, this is kind of what I'm looking at, is living in the back of my truck, showering at the gym, buying 2 or 3 days worth of groceries at a time from the Walmart, camping at the Walmart, working at the Sam's Club, going home once a week, once every other week. This next week, it looks like I may not just go home because I only got day off work. So it's not worth going home, right? So wouldn't that be cool if I could get enough income to where I could just make videos and then build robots and not go to work, because getting to work is a giant pain in the butt. Yeah. I mean, I honestly, most days I don't really like where I work, but it's, you work with some good people and your customers appreciate you. So, it's not the most horrible thing ever, but I'm not going to be that guy that's, got money and 70 years old, but I'm going to keep working because I got nothing else to do. Dude, I can find stuff to do. That's not going to be my problem. Anyway, so Thanksgiving. Yeah. As is so often the case with me, because I am Canadian, I always forget to celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving, which is in October. Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm not even sure anymore. So that was like a month ago. So I always forget that. I'll usually see some post on Facebook, or my mom will send me something, hey, happy Thanksgiving. And I'm like, oh wait, yeah, right. Yeah, so I'll forget that. And then I usually don't end up celebrating Thanksgiving now either. It's just holidays, whatever. So still, it's good to kind of take a step back and think about it. What are you actually thankful for? So I did write down a list. So obviously, huge thank you to my supporters and my subscribers. I've got people that are donating money through PayPal. I've got people on Patreon. I've got people mailing me stuff. I've had several packages randomly show up at the post office from Amazon, and I'm like, oh, okay. Look through the comments. Oh, hey, thanks this person or that person. And most people still want to be anonymous. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'll just say thank you. So when I get a chance, that'll be a whole video, is all the things that people have sent me, it's kind of nice, so thanks for that. And I think what I'm realizing is there's enough people who that want to move off grid, or are planning on moving off grid, or are starting to, but haven't quite made the jump. And I've had a few comments along the line of, hey, see if this works, so that when they get there, they'll have an idea if it works or not. Like, okay, that's easy enough to do. So yeah, I had one of the viewers. I felt bad about this because we had been talking back and forth on email for a while, and he has recently bought property in the same area that I'm in, and he had never seen it. And like me, I bought my property sight unseen also. So I went out and found the basic area where the property was, shot some video for him, sent it to him. All right. Well, he finally gets to come out here and visit the property. And wouldn't you know it, that was a week that I didn't get to go home. And so I didn't even get to meet him. Well, we made arrangements. He leaves me some solar panels he's not using anymore because he bought bigger ones, I think, or something like that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So now I get some free solar panels, and now I have to take the time to hook them up and make brackets for them. But yeah, never say no to, free solar panels. So that's pretty cool. Just random things like that, it's kind of weird. You're like, okay, thank you. On the one hand, I've always, kind of shaking my tin cup, but it's still kind of awkward when people give you something really nice. I've always said I would rather have a lot of people send me $1. I'm uncomfortable if somebody sends me $500. Yeah. Anyway, but thank you. I do appreciate that to all of my supporters and subscribers. Thank you. So that's about all you. And I do appreciate it. And then I kind of looking at my notes, see if I can make any sense of this. And so I wrote down Thanksgiving, spirit of adventure, military skills, improvise, adapt, overcome, independence, and tenacity sometimes. So maybe we'll do these backwards. Tenacity is a word that I don't use very much, but it's kind of like, the fighting spirit of you just hang on and you don't give up. So if you got tenacity, no matter what, you just keep going. It's that guy in football that should have fallen down 20 yards ago, but just kept pushing. It's Forrest Gump, I guess. Yeah, we could say Forrest Gump. Just I've been looking at my videos of building the house, and I'm like, oh my god, it just hurts to look at it, but I got it done. Now I don't have to look at it anymore. There's some things, some days you get home or you get off of work and you sit in the truck. I've fallen asleep in the truck in the parking lot a few times, or you're so tired you just sit there and you eat a cookie and you drink your Gatorade and you realize that you haven't moved for an hour. You're off work, and I'm like, yeah, but it's like, well, it's kind of funny because lately I'll be like, okay, I'm off work and I'm going to be sitting in the truck anyway, so it doesn't matter if I start the truck and drive it to where I'm going to park for the night, or should I just stay there for an hour? You just kind of catch your breath a little bit, and then you start the truck and park anyway. So, independence. This is something that my parents just kind of shrug and shake their head, I guess. But I remember as like 5, 6 years old, before I was in school, we lived on the farm. We would go into town, the big town, 30,000 people back then, probably. That was the town. It was an hour away. And we'd park the truck at the grocery store, and it was kind of like, well, we'll all meet back here in an hour or two or something like that. And my mom and my brother would go somewhere, my dad would go somewhere, and I had a whole list of things I wanted to go check out. So I would just disappear, by myself. I just go wandering off, and it's a different world now. You can't let a kid just wander off anymore. Some knucklehead will just snatch them. I'm pretty sure nobody wanted me. It just never was an issue. I just would take off. When I was 13, 14, lived in a place, Lewiston, Idaho. Lived there for a little while. They had a bicycle trail, went down both sides of the river, and then out the other end, and you could go for miles. And I'd take off on rides, end up 30 miles from home, and then turn around and come back, or something like that when I was 14. Just disappear, come back, And I get back and they're like, where were you? I'd rattle off the name of some town. That's 30 miles from here. I'm like, oh, cool. Didn't think nothing of it. It's really rare for me to actually think I need help. I just will find a way to do it myself. I've had times where, if I actually do ask for help, then I'm like bummed out when nothing happens, so I just do it myself anyway. Just kind of the way I do things. So, independence. The military. It's funny because I was in the Navy for 9 years, but not very much of my specific day-to-day job applies, but the mindset, I think, has always been there. Every one of the different type of aircraft that I had worked on have all been retired. I'm pretty sure every ship that I served on has been retired. The bases that I've been to have, a lot of them have been closed down, so I don't have any of that legacy per se. It's like I have known people who got out of the military as aircraft mechanics and stayed at the same base as a civilian contractor because they'd end up working on the same type aircraft, or even sometimes the same actual aircraft that they worked on for 4 years. They buy their own toolbox and then they'd go out as a contractor and do maintenance as the bases started to realign. And, that never really crossed my mind as a thing I wanted to do because I was always looking for something new, I guess. But, looking back, yeah, there's no jobs for somebody with any of my experience anymore, it seems like, because I don't work on the new aircraft, Yeah. The helicopters I worked on in Desert Storm had been in Vietnam. They've all been retired now. F-14s have been retired for quite a while. I never really worked on F-18s very much. I had a little bit at China Lake, and then, I was working on A's and B's. The C and D were new, and now they're up to the E's and the F's. They're completely different. So I got no experience with those at all. So I've had people ask, "Oh, why don't you go do this?" or "Why don't you go do that?" I'm like, well, I never got my AMP, Airframes and Power Plants certificate, because military does apply, but you still have to go through the entire program anyway. I had a friend that did that, and he was making a killing. I think he worked at 2 different airports at the same time. He would work an 8-hour shift in one place, clock out, drive across to the other airport, work on planes for a different company over there, and then come home and sleep 4 hours and then go back and do it again. It was crazy. But he had that kind of hustle that, the more money he could make, the better, because, he just got married, he had a kid, they were building this big giant house, good for him. He was a rock star. He could really just hammer it out, but me, not so much. But yeah, the whole improvise, adapt, and overcome. That's one of those things that you look at a problem. I mean, there's days where I just want to quit. And I'm like, yeah, but what happens when I quit? I'm like, quitting isn't really an option anymore. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to, crawl back in the sleeping bag and pull my head under the covers. Well, when you're by yourself, all of your problems are still there when you finally get out of bed. So, yeah, I remember twice in my life I've applied for not Social Security. I've applied for unemployment and been denied both times because of my spirit of adventure. I had been self-employed a few times, and so they look at your work history, and it's like the job that you left is the one that pays your unemployment. Well, if, it never would work out for me, so I just quit. I'm like, I'm not even gonna try to get unemployment anymore. It's just whatever. It's one of those things that other people get, but I never seem to be able to get. So it's like, oh, whatever. That's how I ended up as a wedding photographer for 10 or 12 years. I couldn't get a job. Okay, I'll go make my own job. 10 years later, I was still doing that kind of thing. That's one of those things that was the longest thing I think I'd ever did. I had a blast. I liked it. Yeah. Weird to think about it like that. Spirit of adventure. Yeah, that's kind of a weird one too. Thinking about it is like, I get to go camping almost every day. This is great. It's not exactly how I planned it to be, but it's all how you think about it. I could say, oh, I'm an almost homeless veteran living in the Walmart parking lot, or you can say, hey, I'm camping and woke up this morning, made some oatmeal on the stove, made my coffee. Life is good. Life is good. I got my coffee. Part of it too, I think, is I have such a simplistic look at how I want my life to be anymore. And that's been one of my problems, I think, when I get into a job like the Postal Service. I was really hoping the Postal Service would be my last job. I was going to retire from that. I had military time. I could have converted my military time to federal retirement. So then I would have got credit for the 9 years, right? That's huge. Um, but the more you spend in a job, you start to see, behind the curtain, and you're like, do I want to be here that long? And that was kind of the point. I had sort of a career path that was going to happen. I was doing this, and then this would lead to this, and then you kind of work down this path. And there's a post office about 12 miles from my property. It's a one-person post office. It's got relatively short hours, and I'm thinking, okay, I could work there until I retired. This would be great. So I started off in El Paso, so it's 100 miles from home. I got moved closer to the Fort Hancock post office. That was only 50 miles from home, 50 miles. Got to work at the Sierra Blanca post office I did a couple weeks here and there to fill in vacancies, basically. And after working there for a couple of weeks, I'm like, I don't want to work for these people. You just kind of, you're like, no, just no. And then I was like, oh crap. So my ultimate end goal, I realized I didn't want. That makes it pretty hard to go to work when you're like, okay, I could move up, I could learn the skills, I could do the job. But the end, it's like, the pot of gold at the rainbow, you just look at it like, I don't want it, yeah, no, it's just no. So yeah, it's sometimes when I step back, this is kind of the reason for a day like today, where I just take a pause and I think, it's pretty easy to go out and get what you want. The hard part for me is knowing what do I want and making what I want good enough that I will go get it. That comes into tenacity. If I want something, I usually end up getting it one way or another. It might take a while. It might maybe not turn out the way I thought it was going to, but when I really set my mind to something, it generally happens. The Alaska trip, I had about a whole year that I didn't work. It wasn't all on the motorcycle, but the way that it worked out, it was really cool, right? And at that point in my life where I was still young enough to do it. And this is something I would say for anybody. If you got something that you want to do it, right? It's like I lived in Canada. I was in Edmonton. I sold my car, sold my Porsche. This was fun. I drove a Porsche for a couple of years, 928. I didn't really do any real video then. Not very much. So I don't think there's anything on YouTube about the Porsche. I got pictures once in a while, but bought it used. Obviously, it was a 1985 model, so it was pretty hammered when I got it. In fact, it was partially they were doing a restoration, and the guy gave up on it. Just walked away from it, and so I bought it from the shop that was doing the restoration. That's actually how it turned out. I guess he signed it over to them, and then he went out and cut something else. Apparently, the guy had money; he just didn't want that car anymore. So I bought it in pieces. It ran, but the entire interior and some of the exterior trim were all in buckets in the car. And if you've ever put something back together that you didn't take apart, it was very interesting because I never even really looked at the 928 very much before, magazines. But so I'd take apart, I'd hold it in my hand, and I'd walk around the car and try to figure out, what is this? Where does this go? It's like, oh, this is part of this. Okay. And then I look for screws and mount it. and then go find the next part. I spent 2 or 3 weeks doing that, just walking around the car trying to figure out where everything went. It was crazy. Loved that car though. That was just one of the best things ever. Sold that car, bought the motorcycle, spent a few months and a lot of money getting ready for the trip, left my job, moved out of my apartment, stayed at my mom's farm again for a little while, and then hit the road from Alberta, British Columbia, Alaska Highway, Yukon, Northwest Territories, Alaska, and then worked my way back down to near Seattle where my dad lives. My dad and I went down to Belize. I spent the entire winter down there, helped weld the roof on an orphanage project. We built a home for 80 kids. Officially 80, and I'm sure they're well over 120 by now. They don't turn anybody away down there. But I got to spend the whole winter down there, which got me away from cold weather. Spring, I jumped on a series of chicken buses, got all the way from Belize all the way through Mexico by bus, walked across the border at Tijuana into San Diego, took an Amtrak from San Diego back up to where my dad is. Turned out we crossed. No, they were back down in Belize when I left, so I got to see them a little bit there. Then I went back. They were still in Belize. I stayed at their house for a couple of days or about a week, got bored, jumped on the motorcycle, rode from Washington State down to Vegas, San Diego, then up Pacific Coast Highway, which, oh my God, an awesome ride. Get back up to there again, did some odd jobs for a month or so, build up some cash, and then decided on a whim that I was going to move to Texas. Largely because I've never been to Texas before, and I just decided I was going to move to Texas. So I moved to Texas on a motorcycle. That was one of the best moves ever because I had everything that I actually needed. Digital cameras and laptops, basically, in a sleeping bag. That's basically everything I thought I really felt like I needed. And lived in Austin for 4 years. From Austin is when I decided to move out to the ranch, and so I bought the ranch sight unseen. And then about a year and a half later, I think it was, I moved from Austin to the ranch. I'd bought the ranch thinking I was just going to live out there when I retired, but I got to thinking about it. One, I was allergic to everything in Austin. It seemed like I was just miserable in Austin. Humidity, heat, traffic, and allergies. It's just no. So I knew I had done better when I lived in the Mojave Desert. The Navy has a test range at China Lake at Ridgecrest out in the Mojave. So I remembered I felt better there with no humidity and, nothing really grows. So I was like, okay. Mostly that's worked out good. I do get a little bit of allergies, sage and stuff like that once in a while, but it's not anywhere near what Austin was. So that's worked out pretty good. But yeah, it's just the whole process of kind of figuring out. And I think what it came down to is I started to think lifestyle, instead of, oh, I want, a shiny new car and a big screen TV. What I started realizing was maybe instead of what do I want, what do I not want? I didn't want to live in the city anymore. I wanted a little bit of property. I wanted to be able to make noise if I felt like it. So if I just decide I'm going to build something, I can fire up the welder, I can, do woodworking, I can start up the generator, I can make noise, or I can be quiet. And if I'm out there quiet, aside from the wind, it's quiet, it's awesome. So I kind of had this fuzzy picture of I wanted my own space. I wanted my own schedule, right? So that's kind of the direction things are going. Yeah, right now it's not very good, right? But we're working towards that goal. So that's kind of where we're at. Yeah, Thanksgiving. It's just a good time to stop and think, okay, what are you thankful for? What are your goals? What are you working towards? Do you have a plan? There's a video a channel on YouTube I watch as much as I can. Jesse and Amanda, Pure Living for Life. Some of their videos recently, they kind of did a look back again. And they were working in town, they were making the money, and they were spending the money, and they had nothing to show for it. And a lot of people can relate to that. And they finally just kind of like, wait a minute, what are we doing? What's our actual plan? And you get into a grind where, okay, while you're working really hard, you're doing your 40 hours plus a week, and then you're going out on the weekends and you're supposedly having fun, you know, and you're drinking your latte and you're going out to eat and everything. And payday comes along when you're about down to $4, you know. And so what they ended up doing, they lived in a little camper trailer. They thought it was going to be fairly short term. They lived in this thing. What they did is they put the camper trailer inside a big one of those temporary garages, those tents basically. So they put the trailer inside the tent, and then they built a little shed out of scrap lumber on the end of that with a wood burning stove to kind of keep things from getting frozen. And they lived in that little tiny thing for over 2 years, I think. But in the process, they were able to make, I think, I don't know if they got the land paid off yet. They were doing work, something internet. I don't know if they're doing websites or what they're doing. Maybe they've talked about it, but they are generating some income out there. But in the process, now they are building this big giant house. They've got it framed. They've been living in the garage as they finish the house, but they're doing it completely debt free. So they're making their land payment, but they don't do anything on the house until they got money to do it. Right. And that's something I can say for myself is, of the 80 acres, I'm only paying on the last 40 now. The house I own outright. So, yay. That part is working the way it was supposed to. My total monthly budget is well less than $1,000. The truck, I own it. I'm hoping it hangs together. The motorcycle, I don't ride very much, but I own it. The school bus, I own. The house, I own. Racked up some credit card debt in the last couple months trying to work on that again, but I've got land payment, credit card. That's it. So numbers, I don't remember the exact, but I think I'm about right now $17,000 or $18,000 is my total debt, and most of that is the land. So not ideal, but for living on that much property and having the house already, yeah, that's not too bad. So I remember somebody commented this summer this was going to be the year, and it kind of has been. This was the year that I tried. I got to stop and think. It's like the beginning of 2019. I was still working for the Postal Service. I left that, went truck driving, 6 weeks, 3 weeks in school and 3 weeks on the road. Realized I didn't love that. I'm like, yeah, you gotta really love something like that if you're gonna do it for the amount of hours you're in that truck. I'm like, no, maybe not. Left that, came back to the ranch. Got a slow start, but did build the house. So we went, okay, postal, truck driving, built the house. Now the last 3 months of the year we'll be working for Sam's. All right. That's a lot in 1 year, when you think about it. So now I've got the house. I can spend a little more time finishing a few odds and ends, insulation, inside walls, whenever. Honestly, not in a big hurry. I've got a few ideas on the house. Is the reason I don't want to close up the walls. This is kind of it. I don't want to do the insulation and close up the walls because I got a few things I still want to play with before I do that. So I'm really trying to hold off on that. I got a lot of people that want me to insulate my walls, and I'm like, yeah, but then I can't do anything, you know. Typically, you wire your house, you plumb your house, you put up your sheetrock, and then you live in your house. That's not really on my plan. I got some ideas I want to try, and I don't want to put up the inside walls yet, so I won't. Anyway, 40 minutes. Sorry. Well, you'll watch the first 5 minutes and it won't matter anyway. Yeah. What was the other thing? Oh, I was really close. I've been looking at, I could put some of the Harbor Freight solar panels on the camper shell. I think I can easily get 3, and I might be able to put 2 on the sides, which would get me the afternoon sun on either side, depending which way I'm parked. So you'd have 3 on top and maybe 2 on the sides. From what I'm seeing, if I wired them in parallel, which is what I did at the house, if one of them is shadowed, the other ones will still work. If you run them in series, if one of them is shadowed, they all drop off. It's kind of weird. So since I was doing it in parallel, they do seem to still produce, even if 1 or 2 of them are getting sun, you know, so that's not too bad. So I was looking at, okay, I could do solar panels. I could buy some more batteries, charge controller, run a wire to the front so that when I'm driving, I could be charging the batteries. When I'm parked, they'd get solar. Okay. And all of that was because the quote unquote big laptop that I use when I'm video editing needs a lot of power. So since I have so much time in the truck, I was thinking, yeah, I was able to get some video done in the truck. And with the 2 new batteries that I bought, the big deep cycle batteries, I was able to edit over 5 hours. That's a pretty solid edit session off of those batteries. So I thought, well, okay, if I progressed on that, I just had the batteries just by themselves hooked up to the inverter. I didn't have anything charging them yet. So I was like, yeah, I could do charging off of the truck and off of the solar. And so when I'm sitting here, I could be getting useful work done. All right. And then I kind of got to thinking about it. I'm like, well, all right, this still may happen, but the added complexity of adding charging and solars and battery and all the wiring to this truck because of the rough road, I was really concerned about that. It's not that I won't do it, but I'm really kind of pulling back, because if you're running a live wire under the truck and it gets snagged by something ridiculous, because that happens on that road, I was like, is it really worth the problem of, having to get under the truck, and properly doing it? And this is one of the curses of my life, is I know what proper looks like. You don't just monkey rig something like that. You got to spend the time doing it right, and it's difficult. And some days you just don't feel like doing it. So it hasn't gotten done. Then I had kind of an epiphany where today I'm using the Chromebook. This video I'm shooting on the Chromebook just with the webcam. And I was looking at it. I'm like, the Chromebook I can run off of the phone charger. The Chromebook uses the same USB-C connector as the phone. So I can and the Chromebook will run for about 7 hours on a charge, and it can recharge really quickly. Just when I'm driving around town, it'll be recharging. And I don't have to do anything. It just works. So I can do a little bit of video on the Chromebook. I'm doing my writing for the book on the Chromebook. I'll just do video when I'm back on the ranch. Also, almost all of the videos from the house build are already online. I've only got the tail end of the project. Yeah, because I've uploaded wiring. There's a little bit of plumbing. I don't remember that I had very much more. of the actual house build. Also, from what I'm seeing on the stats, people aren't really watching the house build very much. So I'm not gonna, I'll get it. I'm just gonna put it up and then be done with it, kind of thing. Urban camping videos are getting way more views than house build. Who knew? That's kind of one of those things you just got to try and see, I guess. I've had some projects that I was really excited about. You put them up there and you realize that nobody cared. Okay. Move on. Just keep, flinging mud. That's a famous saying that I heard one time, a long time ago. The guy was saying, well, in the beginning of a new business, you don't really know what people are going to like. You think you know. You might go out and start a restaurant and realize that nobody really likes your idea. And then you'll accidentally discover something off to the side that turned out that everybody liked. Then you're like, oh, okay. Musicians say the same thing. The song that everybody likes, it turned out that was the musician didn't like the song. He just like, oh, let's put one on the end of the album. That turned out to be the one that everybody liked. It's just not right. Anyhow, weird tangent. That's why I need a script. Spirit of adventure. Yeah. I guess you got it or you don't. I don't know. Is it? Most men lead lives of quiet desperation. Yeah. Why? Figure out what you like. Oh, what's this guy? Doug, SV Seeker. I think that's the name of the channel, SV Seeker. I have to think about that for a minute. This guy, Doug, I've been watching his videos for years, like 7 or 8 years now. He decides he's going to build a sailboat in his yard. And it's built out of steel. This thing is like, it's not like your typical sailboat. He's making a Chinese junk is what it's called. So he's making the sails and everything. It's got a dragon on the side. It's a beautiful boat. It's turning out. He's nearly finished now. Well, how do you know when it's finished? I guess when it's in the water. I don't know. But it's so funny because he's got his day job. He's making good money. He's like a network administrator or Oracle database administrator or something like that for some big company. So he's making pretty good money. But in his hobby, he's building this boat, and it's like ginormous. It's just a huge boat. And he lives in this little tiny house, and the boat is in the front yard, and it just dwarfs everything. But he's like, he'll just stop in the middle of his video. He's like, what have you built today? Go build something. Shut off the camera, go shut off your computer and go out and do something, make something, pretty awesome. Anyway, it's all about 9 o'clock in the morning. The sun is finally breaking out. I've got 4 hours before work. I don't even start until 1 o'clock today. So I'm going to do some writing, make a day of it. Hey, anyway, so there's probably 5 minutes of content in there in 48 minutes. So sorry about that, but you'll watch what you want. And it's kind of like a smorgasbord, I guess. You get what you want and move on. Yeah. Comments. Leave me some comments. What are you guys thankful for? What great thing have you done this year? And I guess we'll talk about next year's plans closer to the first of the year, I guess. But all right. Well, as always, thanks for watching. Thanks for all your support. Like and comment and subscribe and make it a good day. Bye for now.